Opposition leaders scream about flights and optics while our Prime Minister quietly lands uranium, trade and investment lifelines.
This is not luxury tourism. It is survival strategy that makes Canada a reliable partner beyond hostile empires.
Breaking tonight, Canada's diplomatic strategy just exposed something extraordinary. Conservatives didn't attack the policy, they attacked the optics. Tension is mounting in Ottawa tonight. Prime Minister Mark Carney completed another international trip, but instead of celebrating new partnerships, Conservative MPs launched personal attacks. MP Rachel Thomas condemned his luxury travel. Andrew Lawton mocked our high-flying Prime Minister. Pierre Poilievre accused Carney of wasting taxpayer money on his jet-setting lifestyle. Everyone believed the story would focus on diplomatic failures. Political observers expected evidence of wasted trips. Analysts assumed Conservatives had uncovered genuine scandals. They were all utterly incorrect. Ottawa, November 2025. Standing in Parliament, Conservative MPs presented their case against Canada's Prime Minister. 28 trips, they claimed. 153,000 kilometers of taxpayer-funded travel. Numbers designed to shock. Statistics crafted to outrage. Translation: Conservatives just revealed they have no substantive policy criticism, so they're attacking a Prime Minister for doing his job. And what happened next? The government that invested in global partnerships, while America isolated itself, reveals exactly why Canadian diplomacy is reshaping international relationships, while conservative talking points collapse. Dear viewers, throughout 2025, nothing extraordinary happened in Canadian foreign policy. Trump's America turned hostile. Carney said we'll diversify. And conservative critics, desperate for ammunition, attacked the Prime Minister for literally saving Canada's economic future. Let's examine what actually happened, because this isn't about travel expenses. This is about the fundamental difference between strategic leadership and political opportunism. The Conservative claim 28 trips totaling 153,000 kilometers. They base this on a Toronto Sun story, but the actual count? 12 trips to 18 countries. Some trips included multiple destinations. Conservatives are counting each stop separately to inflate the numbers. It's political math, not reality. But even if we accept their inflated numbers, here's what matters. The Hill Times compared Carney's foreign travel to other G7 leaders. The result? Canada's Prime Minister ranks 4th out of 7. Emmanuel Macron of France visited more countries. So did Friedrich Merz of Germany. Giorgia Meloni of Italy topped the list. Translation? Carney is traveling less than most major world leaders. But conservatives need you to believe he's excessive. Now let's talk about why he's traveling at all. Because context matters. And the situation Carney inherited was unprecedented. March 2025. Mark Carney becomes Prime Minister. Canada's closest ally, the United States, has turned hostile under Trump's second administration. Relations with China? Frozen solid for years. Relations with India? Equally frozen after diplomatic disasters. Canada was isolated, vulnerable, and facing an American administration that viewed us as adversaries, not allies. Carney made a promise. He would address Canada's isolation by seeking new markets, while negotiating with Trump's America. He would diversify Canada's trade relationships. He would ensure that Canadian prosperity didn't depend entirely on an unreliable southern neighbor. And then he actually did it. October 2025, Carney meets with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the APEC summit in South Korea. After years of no contact, the ice breaks. There's now a plan for the Canadian Prime Minister to visit China in 2026. It's not complete reconciliation, but it's movement after years of stagnation. Translation: While conservatives complained, Carney reopened dialogue with the world's second-largest economy. Carney initiates talks with India toward a strategic economic partnership. This week, reports emerged that both countries are on the verge of signing a deal for Canada to supply India with $2.8 billion worth of uranium. A broader nuclear cooperation effort is on the horizon. Let me repeat that. $2.8 billion. Nuclear cooperation with one of the fastest growing major economies on Earth. All while conservatives mock his luxury travel. September 2025. Carney signs Canada's first ever trade agreement with Indonesia, a Southeast Asian nation representing one of the fastest growing markets in the world. Access to a market of 270 million people. New opportunities for Canadian businesses. Historic firsts for Canadian trade policy. But wait, there's more. November 2025. Carney visits the United Arab Emirates. He returns with a commitment worth about $70 billion in planned investment into Canada. Not promises, not frameworks. $70 billion in actual investment pledges. Dear viewers, add it up. China dialogue restored. India partnership advancing with billions in contracts. Indonesia trade agreement secured. UAE $70 billion investment commitment. All throughout 2025. And conservative criticism, he travels too much. Here's what conservatives actually mean when they attack Carney's travel. They mean they have nothing substantive to criticize. They mean his policies are working, so they attack his methods. They mean Canadian success under Carney's leadership terrifies them politically. Because if Carney is succeeding at diversifying Canada's economy, if he's building partnerships that reduce our dependence on Trump's America, if he's positioning Canada as a stable, reliable partner, while the United States careens from crisis to crisis, then what's the conservative alternative? Capitulation to Trump. Poilievre has made that clear. He wants Canada to accept American demands, to negotiate from weakness, to treat Trump's threats as legitimate rather than blackmail. That's not a foreign policy. That's surrender. So instead of debating substance, conservatives attack optics. Instead of proposing alternatives, they count kilometers. Instead of acknowledging that global diplomacy requires global presence, they pretend the Prime Minister should conduct international negotiations via Zoom. It's childish, it's transparent, and it's failing. Because here's what voters understand. When your largest trading partner becomes hostile, you find new partners. When your traditional relationships freeze, you build new ones. When someone tries to isolate you economically, you demonstrate that the world is bigger than one country's threats. That's not luxury travel. That's leadership. Let's talk about what happens next. Because these partnerships Carney is building aren't just about immediate deals, they're about long-term strategic positioning. Canada is sending a message to the world. We are open for business. We are reliable. We are stable. And unlike our southern neighbor, our commitments don't change with election cycles. Every country watching Trump's chaos, every nation worried about American unreliability, every government seeking stable partnerships. They're all seeing the same thing. Canada is available. Canada is professional. Canada is serious. That message doesn't get delivered through press releases. It requires personal presence. It requires the Prime Minister showing up, meeting face to face, demonstrating commitment. That's how international relationships actually work. Conservatives know this. They governed for nearly a decade. They understand diplomatic realities. But they're betting that voters don't. They're hoping superficial criticism about travel expenses will resonate more than substantive discussion about trade diversification. Here's their problem. Canadians aren't stupid. Canadians understand that when Trump threatens tariffs, we need alternatives. Canadians recognize that economic security requires multiple partnerships, not dependence on one volatile neighbor. Canadians can see that $70 billion in UAE investment and billions in India contracts represent real results, not empty diplomacy. And Canadians are starting to ask a very different question than the one conservatives want to ask. Not, is Carney traveling too much? But, what would happen if he wasn't traveling at all? That question terrifies conservative strategists, because the answer is obvious. Without Carney's diplomatic offensive, Canada would be isolated, vulnerable, and entirely dependent on Trump's goodwill. We'd be negotiating from weakness instead of strength. We'd be accepting whatever terms America dictated instead of having alternatives. That's the future conservatives are actually proposing. They just won't say it directly, so they attack travel instead. They manufacture outrage over kilometers instead of engaging with strategy. They count trips instead of counting results. It's not working. Dear viewers, we're watching something remarkable unfold. A Canadian Prime Minister is successfully navigating the most challenging international environment in generations. He's building partnerships that strengthen our economic security. He's positioning Canada as a serious global player at precisely the moment American influence is waning. And the official opposition's response? Complaining about air miles. This isn't just political weakness, it's strategic bankruptcy. Conservatives have no vision for Canada in a post-American dominance world. They have no plan for economic diversification. They have no answer to Trump's hostility except accommodation. So they're left attacking the man who does have answers. The Prime Minister who's actively, successfully building Canada's future while they count his passport stamps. Here's what comes next. Carney will keep traveling. He'll keep building partnerships. He'll keep diversifying Canada's trade relationships, because that's what the job requires. And Conservatives will keep complaining. They'll keep inflating trip numbers. They'll keep pretending diplomatic work is luxury tourism, but Canadians will keep watching the results. China dialogue restored. India billions committed. Indonesia agreement signed. UAE 70 billion pledged. Real deals. Real partnerships. Real progress. That's the difference between leadership and opposition, between strategy and sniping, between building Canada's future and scoring cheap political points. The choice couldn't be clearer. And judging by polling numbers, Canadians are choosing substance over sound bites. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about how many countries Carney visits. It's about whether Canada will face the future from a position of strength or weakness, whether we'll have options or dependence, whether we'll be a sovereign nation making our own choices or a subordinate state accepting American dictates. Carney chose strength. Conservatives are offering weakness. Canada is choosing accordingly. If you're tired of political theater and want analysis that cuts through the noise to show you what's actually happening in Canadian geopolitics, you're in the right place. Canada Next breaks down the strategic moves shaping Canada's future while others count air miles. Subscribe and join viewers who understand that Canada's sovereignty isn't defended with sound bites. It's built with partnerships, one strategic relationship at a time.